I think you're amazing.
You are too, Henry.
Thank you so much. Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate you what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you. Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you, or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection. God bless you. I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank
God bless you
Thank you.
too. Thank you for having us.
Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris, and don't we have a wonderful program for you today? Before we even get started, I would like to encourage you to hit the share button because I believe this is something that a lot of people need to listen to. There's been a lot of conversation because I shared it and posted it, hundreds of comments in regards to this subject, and I was inspired to do a show about it to share my experience and what I think about the subject. After all, that's why I'm here. I love to talk about things, even if it's uncomfortable, edgy, and may trigger people. But these are things that need to be discussed. And quite often, um, we don't talk about things like this. We say it don't matter, it's not important. Sweep it under the rug. But that's the problem. But we need to discuss these things. So go ahead and hit the share button. My name is Henry Harris and you are watching the Brother Henry and You Show. And today our subject is, was Jesus white? That's right. Was Jesus white? And this is a subject that a lot of people may consider controversial. Some people may not think it's controversial because they understand it. While there's many people who may think that it is, but I'm excited to be able to come and talk about this today because I think it's one of the biggest and most controversial subjects that I've covered on my show. I've talked about other things, but I think this is really good, and it's going to be really good today. I promise you that. So the question is, was Jesus white? Jesus is someone who came, or at least that's what's recorded, for a mission, for a purpose, not only to live on the earth, to heal people, to bring liberty to those who are captive, to die on the cross for our sins. He rose from the dead. That's at least that's what the narrative says, and he did so much more stuff too while he was here on the earth. And quite frankly, a lot of people, specifically Christians, we it seems like we're okay with knowing who Jesus was by the Spirit. And I think that's a great thing. But as soon as you start talking about, well, what was he like as a child? What was he like, living in the flesh? What did he look like? We try to shy away from that because it makes us uncomfortable, especially when we talk about his race. We say it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter to me, and that's why I want to do this show today. So, growing up as a child, I was exposed to Jesus as being a white man. And of course, if he's white, that means that he's simply white. You accepted that. And so are the angels. If you look it up, they are white. And the God that sat upon the throne, he was white. And so, like I said, it was almost like forced upon me or imposed upon me, and you didn't question it because Jesus was white. And many of you have that same encounter as I had as a child. I can remember as a child having a picture of Jesus like on the wall, and he was white. Some of the churches I used to minister in over the years, you go in, they got a big old picture of Jesus, a white man on the wall with blonde hair and blue eyes, and you didn't question it. Jesus was white. Everything about Christianity was white. Everything about God was white. The angels were white. And you didn't question that because if you did, you knew you would be in trouble with the church or with your fellow Christian friends. So we also see this in motion films, particularly Hollywood, that if they make a new Jesus film or a crucifixion film about the life of Jesus, it's very rare, if at all, you see Jesus portrayed as a different race other than white. And when I was younger, like I said, this was imposed upon me, so you didn't question it. You know, Jesus was white. There was no doubt about it until I got older and I got more mature, and I asked, is Jesus really white? That's what I had to ask myself. Is Jesus really white, or is it more mature, or is it something America, the United States of America, have portrayed him to be? That's the question that I had asked myself. So now I want to say this. Please don't be offended, my brothers and my sisters. If you want to believe that Jesus is white, you can have a party at that. If you want to believe he's white, that's amazing. I am not here to take away your white Jesus. I'm not. I'm not here to take away your white Jesus. If you want your white Jesus, you can have him. However, some of you may be triggered by today's dialogue because the only Jesus that you've ever known was the one that was white. But today, I pretty much want to look at, I think we should look at this again. I think we should come from another perspective. And I think somebody needs to ask, why is Jesus always portrayed as white? And this ain't something that just happened recently. This has been going on for centuries and centuries and centuries. The only Jesus we know was the one that was white. When I had publicly asked this question, I received a lot of feedback. Everything from Brother Henry, you are inciting racism. And I thought that was quite ironic. I said, so I'm inciting racism by asking the question if Jesus was white? Some claim that it doesn't matter what his color is. I've heard people say that it just doesn't matter what his color is. It doesn't matter at all. We should just focus on what he did. Jesus died on the cross. He shed his blood. He healed the sick. He raised the dead. Jesus did all this stuff, but let us not talk about the whiteness of Jesus. Let us not discuss that. That's irrelevant, Brother Henry. That's not important to us. It doesn't matter what he did. It doesn't matter what he looked like. I mean, there were so many responses that I received from this show is that I couldn't even read all the comments. There were several people that were offended by the question, and some welcomed the question. And I thought it was a good opening for a conversation or dialogue. Then it dawned on me that it was not just the question as it was the response I was receiving from people. And I'm often curious as to why one would be triggered by that question, especially those who claim that it doesn't matter. And my question is, why wouldn't you want to know? That's what my question is. This is a Jesus that you supposedly gave your life to, that you adore, that you worship every Sunday, and you bow at his feet. You do all this stuff. But as soon as we start talking about was Jesus white, somehow that triggers you, that bothers you. Have you ever bothered to ask yourself why it triggered you so badly? Why does it bother you because I asked that question? Why wouldn't you want to know what his color was? Why wouldn't you want to know? Why are you so bold in saying, well, it just don't matter what it was? And that's a valid point. If it doesn't matter to you, it don't have to matter to you, but it matters to me and so many other people. So we know Jesus by the Spirit, as I said earlier, but as soon as you start talking about his color, it becomes a problem. Why is it a problem? Why don't we want to address it? Why don't we want to talk about it? So I learned that It didn't make it wrong for me to ask this question if he was white. I have a inquiring mind. I'm just curious. And I'm surprised that you don't have that same interest as well, especially someone that you say you love. This is the same Jesus that you surrendered your life to. So it does matter to me. I hate to bust your bow, but it does matter to me. Having whiteness forced upon me, even as a child, as it relates to Jesus, and feeling powerless not to say anything about it or do anything about it, we were simply just told to accept it at face value. We were just simply told to accept it and don't question it. And if you oppose that view, you will be called a troublemaker. When I had posted this question on my fan page, someone came on and said, I'm unfollowing you. You're such a troublemaker for asking this question. And I was like, I'm a troublemaker. I'm inciting racism for asking the question if Jesus was white. So if I said he was white, would I not be a troublemaker? If I said he was white or he is white, would you say I wasn't inciting racism? And that's not my motive at all. This is for dialogue. So listen to this. Everything leading up to now to say that Jesus was not white, even though you have believed that. He is not white with blonde hair and blue eyes. And I know that may bust your religious bubble, but it's okay. You'll get over it. You can go to Lowe's. If you got a Lowe's there in your town, go to Lowe's and you can buy a tall ladder and get over it. Jesus is not white. I perhaps wonder, or most radical of all, is if you've discovered Jesus wasn't white. Or what if you discover if he wasn't white? Would you still worship him? Would you still adore him? Would you still read your Bible? Would you still do all these things if you discovered that he wasn't white? Or if God wasn't white? Or if the angels weren't white? But some claim that Jesus was Middle Eastern Jew, and I agree with that. And we know that he was Jewish, and that is a fact if you do your research. And some claim that he had brown eyes and dark hair, and his skin was very tan. So the answer is that he was very likely not white. But here's the $1 million question. The $1 million question is, so Henry, if Jesus wasn't white, why is he often portrayed this way to many people? Also, images of a white Jesus have obviously been used to promote the ideal that white is right, that white is pure, that white is the best. And in many representations of Jesus, especially in the stained glass, he's not only white, but the purest form of white, whiter than anyone else. This is the most terrible effect, especially on people who don't portray that image or look like that white Jesus in that stained glass that's in your church. Some claim that Jesus being white is not only a theological issue, but also associated with white supremacy. I know a lot of people believe that don't exist, but I believe it exists. You don't understand that this damages not only the church's reputation, but also the church's image, because it gives off the ideal that white is right. While many well-meaning Christians claim it doesn't matter, his race doesn't matter, it does matter to me. Insisting that Jesus was white is not only bad history, it's bad theology. And if you find yourself offended, it's an internal issue with you, not with me. That's something that you have to deal with yourself. If it bothers you so much that Jesus wasn't white, and if I just shared bad news with you today that Jesus wasn't white, that is an issue that you have to deal with internally with yourself, not with me. The white Jesus is a myth. It's a myth. And people deploy statements like race doesn't matter, but when hundreds of Black people are turning away from the faith, in part to having to be forced to accept a white Jesus. And we should not close off to this subject, because the white Jesus have been presented and forced in our churches, in our homes, in our seminaries for far too long. And nobody is talking about it. It's not a big deal. And it's easy to say that Jesus' race doesn't matter when inaccurate depictions of him have been around for centuries. Jesus have always been white. Up till I got to a certain age when I started asking the question, I'm like, is Jesus really white? And you should have that same interest as well. So this must stop, because the amount of evil done in the name of race is staggering, and it must come to an end. This must stop because it's a false ideal to believe that Jesus was white. This must stop because it indicates and shows on your behalf that you are uneducated Christian if you think that Jesus was a white man. This must stop because it undercuts and undermines the justice and credibility of the gospel that you say you preach. Was Jesus white? No. Thank you for watching the show. Connect with us on Soul TV at facebook.com, or connect with us on my fan page, The Brother Henry and You Show. Like us and connect with us on YouTube at /Henry Harris 100. Thank you for watching the show today. We'll see you next week. Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate you what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you. Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you, or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection. God bless you. I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank
God
you.
bless you too. Thank you for having me.